of those sticks. Yes, and I just pushed the bird feeder there. Well, that didn't work out either. The squirrels found it. So then eventually I moved on to one of those bird feeders with the backup. And that has worked very well. So that's how life started for me with birds. And it has been growing and growing. Now I've become more interested in having plants, shrubs around, so birds have some natural resources for feeding. But I do supplement with some bird feeders. So anyway, we can begin with the slides. This tells you just a little bit about who we are. We had an interesting guest.
She said it was raining all day. I was in the house.
So the next one.
Now, on this slide, it says the loss of 1 billion birds in the last 50 years. Actually, that's about 3 billion, not million, but 3 billion. So you can see what a problem it is as far as our bird population. And you know why. We've got buildings, we've got windows, we've got turbines, we've got wires. And where some of these birds migrate from, there's the deforestation. Pesticides is another reason, especially for the young. If, say, a bird takes a caterpillar or something off a plant, and there's been pesticide on, so it gets passed on. Another thing, with our cities and all these lights, it does affect their migratory patterns. So they're a little mixed up. Is it day, is it night, what is it? And then there are certain climate changes that are affecting them. Are the plants that they like to visit for their seeds or the insects, are they going to be there when they migrate? Or, you know, will one be ahead of the other? So there's something still that we need to watch and see how it works out. Climate changes, they affect reproduction and habitat destruction also. Another thing is, I hope the cat lovers are defended by cats, feral cats also. And I have several in my neighborhood, and it is a problem. Okay. So even in our urban areas, we're destroying some of our natural habitats for birds. Like if you're near like Baldwinsville, you know, you're sort of country, it's not too bad. But if you go into the city, those yards really, unless you make an effort, are not really going to be helping our bird population. So any kind of oasis that we can do on our yards will be helpful. As you know, birds provide a lot of happiness from us, especially on those winter days, and you see that red cardinal, or in the summertime, if you see that blue bunting with its blue, that blue bunting indigo, it just startles you. And then, of course, there's all the songs of the chickadees, the nuthatches, the cardinals. And there's nothing like watching a hummingbird go from plant to plant. So in order to get more about bird population, one of the easiest things is to have plants, trees, shrubs. These are natural feeders for our birds, and they provide shelter. The best plants are, if you can, is find out which are the native ones. They support our insects. Those are very important for our young birds. If a yard does not have enough, now I have quite a few. I have bird feeders that are in maple trees with some spruce and a nice protected area. And there's not much sun there, but on other sides of the house there are plants with seeds, and these do encourage the birds. But I do supplement with bird feed. So what do we need for our birds? Well, we've talked a little bit about the food. They need cover, especially from hawks. They need areas to nest and water. That water is very important. It's really hard for the birds. You know, during the winter, they can use the snow, although it takes more energy for the bird to use the snow. But it's when you have those very, very cold days and there's no snow and everything's frozen. I know some people have gotten these heater bird baths. That is if you've got an outlet and you can hook it up, and they've been successful for that. But just keep that in mind that, you know, they do need water even during the winter. And there's been some days, not real winter days, where I've had my bird baths out kind of cold, around 32, but the bird bath is not frozen. I've had birds go in there and they go in there and they do their thing. It's quite amazing. You know, when it comes to natural foods and native plants, hummingbirds, they like the tubular, they like the cardinal flower, the bee balm, the jewelry. Perennials such as the black-eyed Susan provide seeds for many of the plants. Annuals like sunflowers provide seeds. Small fruiting shrubs like crabapple, dogwoods, viburnum, service berries, blueberries, elderberries. Conifers, pines, and spruce. Goldenrod, one of the reasons why the birds like the goldenrods some seeds is there are a lot of insects will live on those plants, and that provides food for the young. Columbine, hummingbirds, serviceberry, the berries, sunflower, the seeds, cardinal flower. I've had good success with cardinal flowers, encouraging the hummingbirds. Virginia creeper for the berries. Any kind of trumpet flowers, hummingbirds. Chokeberry for any of the birds that like berries. This is in front of my house, and so you can see I've got some bee balm here, black-eyed Susans. Back there are the cardinals. So in the summertime, I can sit on the porch and I can watch those hummingbirds. And also I can watch the finches. The finch is like the coneflower. The coneflower is back there. So it can be quite an active area. That's not as well as the bees and the butterflies that may be also in that area. That shows the cardinal a little better, and then it shows the coneflowers. I think I got some of those coneflowers from you, Joe. I have more. And the bee balm. Native trees. Are any of you familiar with Tommy's, any of Tommy's books? Nature's Vegetables. Bringing nature home. I got them here. I highly recommend reading them. Brings everything together between plants, wildlife. And it's an easy read, but from his readings, it talks a little bit about the lepidoptera species that each of these trees may support, such as the oak. If you have a choice of any tree and you've got the space, the oak tree is very supportive of having those caterpillars on it, and in that way provides a lot of food for the birds, especially for the young. And the cherries, the willows, the birches, maples, pines, and spruces. Caterpillars are very high in proteins, calories, and carbohydrates. And those are all important in the breeding season. This is taken from Tommy's book. One chickadee can provide up to 390 to 570 caterpillars a day for one clutch of chickadees. Also important for migrating birds are the caterpillars as well. They need to get those calories before they head south. I did mention that I do supplement, and here are some suggestions of seeds. The oil sunflowers is really a best all-round type of seed for the birds. Safflower, apparently the cardinals like them, but my cardinals don't seem to like them. And millet for ground feeding, sparrows, juncos, corn for the pigeons and doves, Niger for finches, common red quail. And then there are fruits, particularly like for the Orioles. My neighbor is very successful getting Orioles in, and I don't get any, I think because she gets them all. And they like grape jelly, oranges, and then there's peanuts for the woodpeckers. Now, anybody who has one of these nectar feeders, you don't need to have it colored. You just have water with 1 part of sugar to 4 parts of water. But the thing is, I find in the summer, you really have to watch it carefully where it will ferment or ants get into it. So you have to really be on top of that. The platform feeders are like for those juncos or those doves or sparrows, things that like to really feed from the ground. Tube feeders for the small birds like finches. Hopper feeders have the cover. Suet feeders for the woodpeckers and nuthatches. It's really important in the winter. All feeders need a regular cleaning, especially after it's been raining a while. They will become moldy. What I tend to do is I take the feeder in and clean it out and wash it, but I always have a secondary one that I can put out. As far as habitat, they do like shelter, evergreens, and many other trees. Dead limbs or trees, trees provide insects for the woodpeckers. So not only is they good for shelter, but they also provide insects. And I'll show you a tree in my yard that my birds love. Brush piles for shelter if you don't happen to have trees. Lauren was telling me that in her case, she took her evergreen and she's put it somewhere near the feeder so the birds can have a shelter from the hawks. Bird houses for nesting. Water sources, ponds. My neighbor has a nice pond, so I think that takes away some of my birds. And it's one of these twinkling ones, and the birds love that. You can kind of mimic that with a water bottle somehow set up that drips. And I mentioned about trying to set out water even for a short time during the winter time. And perhaps using those heaters if you have an outlet. So, you know, we have those year-round feathery friends that come around. But there are birds that come through migratory that are really interesting to see and have beautiful colors. This one, the roseback. I've had one come and stay in the yard for about 2 weeks at the bird feeders, and a pretty beautiful bird. And Baltimore Oriole, if you're lucky enough with feeders, you can get them. Cedar waxwings, they really like the fruiting plants and trees. And this is that bunting, that indigo blue bunting. I have periodically seen that bird come to my yard, mainly to the bird bath. But where I've seen this bird to a greater extent is down in the Tully area. I don't know why, but he seems to like it down there. Then there's the common grackle. They could really be killers to bird feeders, depending how you have them set up. But just keep your eyes out for other birds, besides those common ones that we have around here. It is suggested if we have perennials that we leave the perennials. They do provide seeds for the birds. If there's no shrubbery, provide some sort of bush pile. Provide water if you can. And make sure you clean those feeders. These are my feeders here. This is spruce. This is in the winter time. There is some water in there. I don't know what the temperature was there, but it isn't frozen in that photo. So, you know, this leads to other things. I don't know if any of you have done that Cornell. It's, what is it, the bird feeder yard watch? That's kind of interesting. There's all sorts of, through Cornell, all sorts of interesting seminars that you can watch with them. This is a good time of year to actually start thinking of what you can do in this come springtime as far as encouraging more birds to come into your yard. You know, what kind of plants, what should I do? And the more you reflect your yard on the variety of natural things, the better it supports our feathery friends. So to keep our birds safe, if you're using one of these feeders, if you put it about 10 to 12 feet away, the squirrels won't be able to jump on it. And as you saw in that photo, I do have some spruce, and they're not that far. What happens is the squirrel gets on the branch, can't get enough momentum to get off there, they fall down. Raffles really do work. In the wintertime, I'll actually put out some peanuts in a separate feeder on a tree for the squirrels. Try to keep them away in being tempted. If you do have hawks that come around, the best thing is just to take your feeders in until maybe a week or two, so they find a different place to do the feeding. Rake up any of the accumulation and waste that discourages the deer from coming around. Watch out for cats, and as much as possible, try to keep away from pesticides. Here's my baffle, and there are the spruce, mostly maples. I do have a surface berry, but you can't see it. Unfortunately, it's gotten too much in the shade now, so I really don't get nice berries. And then there's some yews in there, so there's plenty of shelter for the birds. And this is a tree that was injured during that Labor Day storm. The top of it is gone. They call this a snag. And I've got some holes there that woodpeckers have made. I've got some squirrels that have made the home in there. So it's a pretty active thing. And it's in such a place that if it does fall down, it's not going to injure my neighbor or anything on my property either. This is that tree. It's a snag. The top of it is gone. And this is the variety of feeders I have. In this 2 feeder, this is in the springtime when those common grackles come and they eat everything. is a huge big cage. I think I got it from somebody, Maine or somewhere like that. It's actually like a lobster cage, and it does protect it. And there's the one where the platform, and then this is another one that I like in that the cardinals can get into it, but some of the bigger birds can't, and then all the small birds can. I haven't been able to find any more of those. One of them of it came apart, and I've only got one now. And there's just another photo, but that's where the suet is. And this is for the finches. And it's another 2 feeders, so I have quite a variety of feeders. So as far as resources, I do have a number of books out here. I hope you will take a look at them at some point in time. But this is the book I was mentioning by Douglas County. It really is worth a read. It really is, and it's easy to read. And there are some handouts here. I don't know how well it's supplying this, and you're welcome to those in some business cards later on if you would want to take a look at it. One thing I forgot talking about the birds. Make sure you keep it in a dry, covered container of some sort. Otherwise, you might have problems with pantry moths. So just a bit of warning. So that's pretty much my hesitation. Oh, just a couple of little side notes. Longevity of some of these birds. I don't know if this is the latest, but like an American goldfinch. They can live up to about 10 years. Chickadees, maybe up to about 12. Hairy woodpeckers, about 15. Mourning dove, as if you want a lot of them, up to about 31 years. So anyway, it's kind of interesting. I don't know if these are the latest figures, but you know, some of these do have some pretty good longevity as long as we treat them nicely and feed them. Are there any questions or comments? Yes.
I got a couple for you. First of all, do you feed year round?
Yes, I do. Maybe in the back, because mainly maple trees, I like to separate. And during the summer, I do get the grosbecs, and I got, other sort of seasonal birds that come, and not seasonal, seasonal birds that come through.
Starlings. How do you get rid of starlings?
Well, that's a problem. That's why that one feeder is in this huge, all the small birds get in, but the starlings can't get in. They're pesky. They come around towards the end of March.
They come around now too.
They're hungry.
Maybe I'm thinking they'll come in raffles. I believe they're on the 4th of July, something like that. Yeah. I think this is the common raffle in there. And March, July, after the meeting of the
I'm finding a lot more birds seem to stay year round now. Like I see robins all the time.
Yeah, that's true.
And I'm seeing I saw starlings today in my backyard. And so it's kind of an issue.
Yeah.
Oh, they're right in my, I got a platform.
Yeah,
That's why I like to have a variety of feeders and a variety of ways of at least keeping some of that food safe. So, are there any other questions or comments? Yes.
I have a question. Do you find that hanging feeders, does the overhead dome baffle work well with squirrels? Or do they just
I
hop
don't
on
know.
it?
I don't know. This is the one that I've used, and I've been very successful.
Yes, the overhead baffles too.
Jumped right over
And
it.
my husband made me a T-style, and squirrels are so expensive when you're trying to feed the birds because seed is so expensive. He made me a T-style feeder that is 7 foot tall and 4 feet long out of PVC pipe. And he put 4 hooks along the top, and I just took them like with a dog clip. That's what I hooked up. Now, one squirrel has been able to get up that PVC pipe, and the only thing that is on it, about 4 foot up, is a cheap plastic baffle. They'll try, they'll get a 1-inch start and try and then just slide down, and yet they never even make it to the baffle. And this is the first year I've had no problem whatsoever with squirrels eating my feed. And it works perfect. And then I have a platform feeder with a fatter PVC pipe that's like 4 inches. And that has no baffle on it. And they can't find that either.
It's just too.
They're just in the ground. We put them in the ground in the fall. And I feed the birds also out there because I have them bring their babies around. And it's fun seeing that I had baby Oreos for the first time this year. And so and I have a screening back porch. I don't get crap done when the babies are coming. I just sit there and watch the
This
birds.
reminds me, I get the wrens making nests, and these are gourds that are hanging from the porch. And they love the gourds for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Every year.
I had more birds this past year that I had the cedar waxwings. I had never had them. There were a lot of birds that I had this year that I had never seen. And I've been feeding the birds for 30 years. And 15 years ago, the bird population declined drastically. And it's, I would say, just barely starting to come back as far as, you know, I even contacted Cornell about my concerns about the birds. Because I've been doing it for so long, it was unbelievable change. But those tea things do work great. If anybody wants to try it, it's just cheap PVC pipe. And the main thing, and that's where all my hangers feed, and they can't get up there. They just snuggle down.
Any other comments or?
Someone's saying that they recently got a bird feeder, but they are not seeing any birds yet. Do you have any recommendations on how to attract them?
Do they have, well, just recently?
I'm not sure.
Well, you know, if you have the water there, and it depends what kind of bird seed they were using. You know, that black sunflower is a good one to start with. I have one with a variety of peanuts and berries in it, and that seems to work quite well.
Oh, we don't have the snow cone, but they can still find me.
They said they're on the bay and they've had the feeder for 2 weeks.
Yeah, it takes a little bit.
Yeah, it's gonna take some time.
Any other questions?
That's it from this chat.
Just a quick, I live in the Mattydale area, so there's not a lot of habitat per se. We get, occasionally I'll get something, but it's mostly sparrows, mourning doves, pigeons, starlings. Trying to attract other, I've got a couple woodpeckers that come around and yellow pigeons every once in a while, but I'm just trying to get the pigeons not to just come and go leave. I'll get 10 or 12 of them on the ground. There's a couple that will hang off my feeder and knock everything out. Is there any way to just, other than like getting a bigger cage around the feeders to get pigeons to move on? Yes, find new breed, or find new
So
breed.
that baffle on the top, like the upside down bowl, that would deter them.
Okay,
And I also noticed that if I use nut and berry now, and this is like the first year I've ever done this, and I have got more nut hatches and woodpeckers and different varieties of birds that I never got before. And that nut and berry, I am swear by it.
First do it or first seeds?
It's actually sweet.
It's seed? Yeah.
Yeah.
I need a different seed of that, 'cause my one, I tried them, like, and it had like, it almost looked like a granola almost, so it had bigger nuts and raisiny type things, but it was getting stuck in my feeder and.
Yeah, it was, what was the.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
also helps if you have neighbors that have feeders or
Yeah, that's.
plans
uh,
or things.
Yeah.
Because I have a neighbor that once she got her pond going and her bird feeders up, and she's getting the Orioles and whatnot, but we've got more activity than
Yeah,
I
neighbor
do
with
at
a
home.
koi pond. That actually had great blue heron once, so I was like, oh boy. They're going, "Ooh, lunch."
Right.
But, yeah, no, the neighbors around here are actually chopping down the trees and bushes sadly and creating less space for the birds. I notice now I left all of my clematis up and a very large clematis that kind of grew along. And the sparrows will be roaming around in the dead clematis plants and stuff and hang out in there. Just gives them a little more shelter because there's just bushes that get cut down. I hate to see.
I have Cooper hawks and Sharpshin hawks, and they come and, like she said, I took my Christmas tree out of the house and I put it a little bit further from my bird feeder, and they'll dive into that.
Yeah.
But those Sharpshins they are flyers. They just are, and they like those morning doves, what, me.
They usually like pigeons.
Yeah, it's true. Those bigger birds, you see all those pretty feathers,
I used to use the snow sled, the snow saucer, as the top baffle. It worked out really good.
Oh.
Because they were large enough, and they deterred the hawks from coming
Right.
down.
Right.
And all the feeders were underneath it to help keep that dry.
The project, the last one you have there, the project feed and,
Sorry.
watch, is that an online thing?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, if you go through Cornell, you'll be able to find it.
Okay.
All right, are we ready to do butterflies?
Thank you, Helen.
Oh, it's gonna be a hard act to follow.
So tonight we're going to talk a little bit about butterflies and moths, and the difference between butterflies and moths is they're similar, but they're different too. Sometimes when you're in your garden and you're trying to figure out what kind of butterfly or moth it is. Butterflies have clubbed antennas, whereas moths are straight and tapered. And when a moth lands, it will leave its wings out like this, whereas a butterfly will pull its wings together. What else can I tell you? There's like 200,000 different species of butterflies in the world and 150,000 different species of moths in the Lepidoptera insect order. The bodies of a butterfly are smooth and they are not hairy, whereas a moth is got a fuzzy body. And butterflies will fly during the day, where a moth will fly at night. Let's see, when a butterfly is going to do reproductive, it's a chrysalis, whereas a moth, it's a cocoon. Yep. They both have 6 legs, and their body is a head, a thorax, and an abdomen. A butterfly will move in a figure-8 pattern, whereas a moth will fly in a straight line. In the life cycle, there's like a metamorphosis. In the caterpillar is the larva, and it will grow 100 times its size from birth till when it's going to go into the chrysalis. It will shed its outer skeletal 4 or 5 times over a 2 to 4 week period. And we'll go into the chrysalis or the pupa, which is this guy right here. And it's like a spin of silk, and it will attach to the underside of a leaf and pupate. During that metamorphosis, it's listless, and it lasts for about a week, and it will turn into mush, and the adult body of the butterfly develops, and it will emerge and unfold its wings, and it will have to let the wings dry, so it might sit there for a while. And it will force air and swallow air and pump it into those wings, and the fluid will pump through the veins, and they gotta warm up. They gotta be in the sun. They can't move without being warm enough before they can fly. And different butterflies fly at different speeds. The patilla will fly like 10 to 25 miles an hour, where a skipper can fly up to 37 miles an hour. Pretty crazy.
Big grade.
Yep. Moving forward. So, like Helen said, in the bird world, the butterflies are very similar. There's the big 4. They need food, cover, nesting area, and waters and minerals. So you need to bring all those things into your garden if you want them to come and be at your house. In the larva stage, it's native trees that we're going to push, and native plants. So the birch, the willow, dogwoods, lilac, verbena, viburnum, honeysuckle. In the shrubs, it's like the viburnum and the honeysuckle, and the perennials. And when you get ready, there's a next slide if you want to go. It's got a picture of what I'm talking about. Thank you. So when in the larva stage, these are the different flowers and plants and trees that would sustain their life. It's a good thing. And then after you get done with the larva, we'll go into the butterfly. And you go back very good. You're okay. Fast. Oh, but the butterflies prefer purple and yellow, and they like flat flowers. So like the yarrow and coneflower, the azaleas, joe pie, selva, cosmos, the pincushion, clematis. Those are the plants that a butterfly likes. They use their proboscis. That's how they use. And theirs is not as big as a hummingbird. You know, a hummingird's got a long, because they like trumpet flowers. So these guys like those flat flowers because it's not as long. So as far as the nesting and the cover, those trees that we talked about and the shrubs, I need you to think in layers. So you've got the canopy of the trees, and then the next layer down might be your shrubs. And then you've got something that's a little bit shorter, like the perennials or your annuals, nicotana, coneflower, the lilac, joe pie. They all are good. And then the ground cover that would be shorter, that would be closer to the ground, so that it gives them a place to be able to hide, and also all the food that they need. So the water and minerals are very important. And I actually put out like a small container that's like a dish, a shallow dish, and I'll just put water. Sometimes I'll put a banana or half an orange or half an apple. They need the salts and the nutrients, and they like it on the farm. They like horse manure, cow manure. You'll see them on dung, but they're getting those nutrients and those salts that they need. So I have a lot of brush piles, and it gives them a place to be able to hide. and also to build, like to just get away from birds and predators. And, butterflies can fly with like a half a wing. So some of the pictures I'll show you in a little bit, it's like I couldn't believe it could take off. But it's all good. Helen, I'm gonna have you switch up. Thank you. So they have 4 fascinating behaviors. And the first one is, it looks like a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh. So they love to roost, they'll just like be over here on the left and up on the right, to just sort of hang out. And the puddling is when they get along by the water, and they'll take the nutrients up and they stew through their saliva and suck it up, get the nutrients, the amino acids and the sodiums. And they use their photosynthesis. They need some of that so that they can mate and create the eggs and all the good stuff. The courting is usually, and you'll see it with different wing movements. The male will hover over a female and touch her with his hind legs and release a pheromone. And if she's receptive, she'll perch and curl. And if she isn't, she'll pull her abdomen right in and we'll find somebody else. So there's another behavior that they talk about, drumming, and it happens after the mating. And the female is already mated, she'll do a spiral flight, and actually it's like a rejection dance. So it's pretty fun. So the vision on the butterflies, they have compound eyes, and they can see spectrums of light and ultraviolet light, and it helps them when they're gathering food. And they can actually communicate together that way. And the flowers emit UV light, and they see that. So that those native plants that we were talking about, they're looking for those.
So if a bug zapper has ultraviolet light, are they gonna aim for that?
It depends. It's like, but they can see it. So they, depending on what they're doing, are they going to get food? Are they looking to mate? Are they, so it's fun to watch, just trying to figure out what are they doing.
Yeah.
So we're gonna, there you go. So the predators and the butterflies need camouflage and they do mimicry. So as far as defense, butterflies are very fragile and they are defenseless. They live an average to 2 to 4 weeks in the butterfly stage, and they can be eaten and by predators, and sometimes they're poisonous. So the viceroy looks like a monarch. We'll show a slide right over this side. This one here is a monarch, and this is a viceroy. And a monarch is very bitter, doesn't taste good at all. And a viceroy will mimic what a monarch looks like so that those birds won't eat them. But when you look, you can tell the difference. See how that tile is all, like the line is pretty straight, whereas on the monarch, it's kind of it's irregular and V-shaped. So I can be honest with you, I've never seen a viceroy. I've looked, and not in my area. Anyways, I'm bound and determined it's got to be around somewhere. So this actually is the larva, and it looks like bird poop, So I know. And I do love my robins, and I have them year round too. They sell mealworms here that I use, and they like them a lot. So do my raccoons and my possum. But I haven't figured out how to keep them out. But they need to eat too, So we're going to have this. Oh, there you go. So the butterflies in the garden are absolutely beautiful, and they're pollinators, and they are very aesthetically pleasing. And I need you to just not use any Roundup. Don't use any pesticides that are going to be bad for the environment. Because that's been our problem with the birds and the butterflies, is that we just need to get back to nature. You ready, Cal? These are my resources right here. I have another set of slides I'd love to share with you, and there's some pictures. And I gathered them from my yard, and Jim and I, my husband, we went down to Brook Green Gardens down in South Carolina. And we've seen some pretty fun things. So I'm just gonna have you start. This monarch is just faster. Yeah, there you go. And here's the difference between that viceroy and the monarchs with the different tiles. And these are the queens. You know, kind of see that tile I was talking about. Yeah. And then the cedar wax ones, they'll be coming along pretty soon. Those upright cranberries, they don't want to eat them when they first in the early part of fall. They want to wait till after winter and it's frozen, and they like those, and they'll come and take all of them. It's awesome. You know, and here's my partners. So they're a lot of fun. And then I'm looking forward to this. This is the Red Wings. They come in the spring. This is a black eastern tiger swallowtail. Was down at Brook Green Garden, and there's a bunch of different swallowtails. This is a hellebore. They are like a Lenten rose, they call it, and that will bloom in, they say February, but in my house it's more like March. So, and that is an owl moth. You know it, isn't that wild? You know. From the Baltimore Orioles. This isn't at my house. This is up 10 miles from my house. I can't get them. I can't get them to come to my house. I want them, but they don't want to go. And then the lilac. And here's a common buckeye moth. And he's on goldenrod. And this praying mantis, he takes on the color of whatever flower he's on. He was down at Brook Green Gardens. Yeah, down in South Carolina. It was late April. In the morning there. Here's another viceroy. And this was a garden down in South Carolina. And it's got the alum. Yeah. And here's a tiger. See how he lost some of his wing? I couldn't believe that he could fly. Black-eyed Susan and the knockout rose. And that's my autumn joy and the little monarch. Yeah. So I took this picture like from, it's not, I didn't see it in person. I thought that was beautiful. I'm a blue girl. No. And then here's the zinnias. This is a hepatica. They come out very early in the spring. It's like the first flowers in those early on before the leaves come out, and it lasts about, oh gosh, just a short while before the leaves come out on the trees. This is up on top of the hill in Milne, over by the Erie Canal. And the trout lily. Cabbage. This was down at Brook Green. That is a stanchion, and it's plastic. It's not metal, and it's planted, and those are, it's just gorgeous. Yeah, and that one was a flop. This is a Luna moth cocoon. So it looks like, it looks like, yeah, like it has some kind of a fungus, but it's not. So when you are raking the leaves in your yard, it starts out in the tree and then it gets pretty heavy and it drops down into the leaves in the yard and it will spend the winter there. And then that's the next slide. Here's the big guy. And it's a moth. It comes out at night. And it's big. It's big. It's like the size of your hand. I know. And it's beautiful. But if you don't leave the leaves, you're not going to be able to, because that's where they are. So the next slide is my dog. And she helps me. I leave the leaves, but they're in a certain spot. I don't leave them all over my grass because if I do, I have a mud hole. And she's got huge feet and it just isn't, it's awful. So I leave a part of the yard has got all the leaves. And when I was raking them up, she was just making them so it wasn't raked up. But leave the leaves, they're saying that this year, that's like they're pushing it. So maybe we'll get more butterflies and more lightning bugs and have more caterpillars for our little birds. So I think that's it. Yeah, this is my resource from those pictures. So, yeah.
I have a question. When you talk about structuring your garden, starting with obviously your trees and then coming down to shrubs. So what I find is that in trying to do that, the trees are blocking out the light. So then you're trying to make do with low light plants, which of course aren't the ones that they really want. You got your hostas, but they don't really care about those as much as they would care about some of the other stuff. So how do you navigate the lighting situation when you are trying to provide all three of those layers of protection?
So I need you to look at your whole yard and then just like draw it out on a piece of graph paper. Where's the sun? Where does the sun go in that growing season? And then that's why we're going to do our trees so that we've got some area that has some sunshine on that lower part. So where I am, I don't have as many trees as I used to. I have a lot of ash, and on the ash borer is like 20 trees. So expensive to take them down. But I tell you the truth, I don't have to take them down. They fall down from the base, right? And then you got to take them out. But you got to look to see where your sunshine is and then plant accordingly so that you can sort of have that sunshine. So, yeah, I have a lot of container gardens because I don't have a lot of sun and I move those containers around. On my deck especially is where I will put those containers so that I can move them and have it be, because the way the sun goes through the season, it's just, it goes through the sky. Anybody else?
What do you do for chipmunks?
So I have a cat. None of my chips have tails. I know, it's the truth. My
We
cat.
have birds, we can't have a cat.
Right, yeah, exactly. I know, Helen is, yeah,
Our chipmunks and squirrels seem to dig up everything she plants outside.
yeah, I have that too.
Moth balls work very well. Definitely. You put moth balls around where you plant. I don't know why it works, but I've been doing that. I used the meal bone one year when I did bulbs.
Yeah.
And I ran up to Home Depot or Lowe's or someplace to get mothballs. And I came back and my dog just picks them up out of the thing and licked the dirt.
That's nice.
They smell like milk balls.
Yeah, that meal bone, it's like, my
They're
dog
just like milk balls.
rolling. So, yeah, but.
He didn't hurt the balls.
No,
He just
so,
licked
yeah,
the
right.
dirt.
That's my dog too.
Yeah,
So I actually put it under my balls before I plant.
yeah. But I don't know why and I also will sprinkle some just around the plant. I don't know why they work, but it does.
Yeah, the dog loves it. So I put a chicken wire over where I plant my bulbs. Okay, I have chicken wire down on the ground. And I have to be careful when I walk the dog so that she doesn't get choked, you know what I mean? But I have red squirrels and I have chipmunks and they will move my bulbs. And a lot of times I move them to my neighbor's yard. So I can still enjoy them, but it's like one of those things where, yeah, I put that in there. She's like, I didn't want that. It's like, no kidding. I know it did.
Lori?
Yeah.
My neighbor uses rat traps for the chickens.
We haven't had a hard trap, so we'll catch them and relocate them, but.
You're not supposed to relocate them off your farm.
I'd
Don't tell
rather do that than
anybody.
kill them though.
So I live, like, out, like, so that I totally understand they have a heart attack. You know, I feed them.
Yeah.
But, well, they eat my bird seed.
Yeah,
you know. So my bird feeders are the ones that are got a long cylinder, and it will hold 2 quarts of feed, and it's got just 2 openings at the very base, and the big birds really don't bother it, and the squirrels, it's so comical watching them because they'll slide down the cylinder, but they can't hold on long enough, even like, and they are so good, like they hold on with back feet and like go head first, you know, it's, or the other thing I've done is I've taken a shepherd hook, a 7-foot shepherd hook, and put it up in the tree, and then put a bird feeder at the bottom where it would normally go in the ground, you know, it's got that little flag thing, and have it there, and you watch a squirrel like try to shimmy down that, that's comical, you know.
We have they're called squirrel away, bird feeders. They were great, the squirrels, but the chipmunks are too light.
Right, because it's set so heavy that, can you
Right.
set it so that it's a lighter weight?
No, I can't adjust it.
Yeah.
no.
I wondered, I don't have it. My one street over has it, and when she goes to Florida, she has me throw her feeders, and I've seen the squirrels just like get ejected. It's like, I know, watch. Whiplash.
We built one of those, the spinner, there's 3 cops of corn. It spins and they hang from it. And it's comical.
Yeah, it is. Just make them work for it, you know what I mean? It's good for them.
One thing I noticed as far as butterflies, this is late in the summer. I don't see butterflies on the street, on the pavement. And I think what they're after is salt, you know, after all the salting through the winter.
It is.
Yeah, I get kind of upset because they don't want to move.
They're busy, you know, they use that hibiscus and they'll put their saliva and then they'll suck it back up and take those nutrients in. So,
One other thing, would you tell us about the migratory thing of the monarchs?
so the monarchs go to Mexico, and you know, a lot of times that monarch that grew in your yard, where we are here, he doesn't make it all the way to Mexico. He might make it just a little ways down, and then he goes through, and the next season, the next one picks up where he left off, and he's like going south, you know, or maybe they're coming north. But they very, it's not often that you see somebody that makes it the whole way. Sometimes they'll get on the one of those big winds, like the hurricanes or those big storms, and get in the trough, and they can go. This the lady that does Janet Allen, the lady that does wildlife said that they had butterflies that were like it had a tank, and they found it down in Mexico. So I don't know. It's like, wow.
Years ago, there was a big article.
Yeah.
National Geographic, about how the egg.
Yeah.
I know.
Exactly, hurting their leg. Yeah.
They have really good solutions here. Their shrubbery and
Right.
my yard, fruit sprays in spring and midsummer.
Yeah. Oh, I don't even have to wait till midsummer. It's like they come in and they get on their back legs, and it's like the ewes and everything is just stripped right up to the point.
Yeah, that really helps, 'cause we live in the woods, and there's deer everywhere. We can't even get down the driveway without seeing one. And, we have 2 dogs, so.
Yeah, we've heard.
Really? Wow.
They go, sometimes they'll come in and there might be like a whole herd. You know, you have, and they're all different sizes. Yep.
Yeah, my dogs are having. So
We let our dogs out in the middle of the night.
I've
Yeah,
got,
I think that's when they do the most damage. At night.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I know they do have things that are marked deer resistant, but I don't know how.
but if when they're
much.
hungry, they'll eat anything. Yeah, you know, they talk that they don't eat spruce. They do like ewes, you know, that dark green, and it, I mean, just.
I love raisin bread.
Maybe I should do that.
My friend that she has a place down in Pennsylvania, she's eating them all the time, raisin bread.
You've had success with what, sir?
We had success with a chemical called Deer Out.
Yeah.
It's not a chemical, it's all natural. It's a peppermint concentrate that you mix with water. It's synthetic waterproof and that's about rust. I mean, it's 30-inch phase. And then we respray the applicator just like it was Deer Out.
But if it rains a lot, like we used to have trees in the back, you have to unfortunately respray because.
Right.
But it works really,
you
really
have-
well. And we've had, we've had.
Well, that's something I remember a little like moles and mice and stuff too, that they didn't like that strong.
Yeah.
They don't like chives or oregano either.
And wood chucks too, don't like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it okay for your pets though? I mean, like if your
Yes.
dog is in your yard?
Yeah.
Yeah. Friendly? Yeah.
I don't know how it worked for deer, but I know it was on the list of things for preventative. We had to make traps out of our yard. We had, it's like a solar strobe light that gets set off by motion, but it also emits kind of a sound. And that was really good at keeping the cats away. We were just having cats pee in our garden. So I don't know how well it would work for deer, but they say that it would work on them. I think the sound is supposed to drive them off.
I think it used to.
Well, yeah, maybe with the peppermint oil, they would.
I have a coworker that we call the scarecrow, it hooks up to a water spigot, and the motion turns on and sprays water. I've heard it works well. It's entertaining to watch.
It's like spray bottle.
Get a trainer. Clean us on the road.
They had a couple months with David Weir on the news that the monarch population is down by 80%. And they said to plant milkweed. Now, are they talking about the milkweed that has all those little things that come out of the fall? Or are they talking about the native butterfly bush?
So they're talking about that milkweed that has the little bushes. Yeah, and you know, there's a couple of different kinds of milkweed. There's swamp milkweed and there's common, it's
My son made me leave one in my garden like 10 years ago. I have never yet, in one of my gardens, I have never yet seen a monarch on it, and it has shoots that go, and you pull it up, and there's all these little things. Well, he's in California now, and I'm pulling them babies up every single year. And I don't know
You
if
need to look
those are
on
the
the
ones.
underside of the leaves and see if there's any eggs.
I do, and
Okay.
I've never seen any,
You know,
but ants.
Yeah. So sometimes the ants eat the
Eat
eggs.
the eggs.
Right.
Right.
So the eggs get darker as they're getting ready to mature. And a monarch butterfly wants to eat that tender leaf. So if you have the milkweed, snip off that top and it will grow more brand new leaves and they're really tender.
I saw a monarch come out of this thing in a cornfield once. It was on a lawn. And my son and my daughter-in-law were there and I'm yelling, get over there. It's like once in a
I
lifetime
know.
thing. You're like,
It's true.
yeah.
It's crazy. I'm determined to see a viceroy person. It's like, Thank you for coming. If you haven't signed in, I'm gonna ask you to sign in and grab some handouts.
And there's some handouts.
Yes. Come on.